Hi there, and thanks very much for joining me. I'm Dean and this is the Woodwork Journey channel. So before we go any further, I would just like to point out that very soon there will be some videos on the channel about a new woodwork, because I'm a new woodworker, so I've only been woodworking since July, and I wanted to make a series of videos based on someone like myself coming up with a design and then creating a product and then selling it on Etsy, and what's entailed with that. Is it successful? How hard is it? And all that sort of nonsense. So there will be a series coming up very soon to talk about that. So if that's the sort of thing that interests you, make sure you do hit subscribe so you do get notified when that video comes up. Right, now I apologise for the hat, but it's really cold. And I've got the door open of my garage just a little bit to allow a little bit extra light in. But yeah, so here's what we're doing today. You've seen it because you clicked on the thumbnail. But yesterday I needed to make a new jig or a crosscut sled for my table saw, but I didn't have any thick, like 18 or even 12mm ply to make it from. But I did have some 9mm sheets of MDF. Now, crosscut sled and MDF isn't ideal, but that's what's going on. Sorry, I just checked my microphone was on. So what I've done is I ended up cutting two pieces of 9mm MDF, and I've sandwiched them between the some bits of chipboard there and put some weights on top of that, and this is hopefully how it's all going to be stuck together. I haven't undone it yet, but we'll do that another time. Or I'll do that another time. But what it meant was I had to cut this because it was in some quite large sort of 4-foot square sheets. I didn't want to use my table saw from a safety point of view, so I have got this track saw. Now, I bought this second hand and it was a bargain off Facebook Marketplace, as most of my tools are, to be fair. And it's an Erbauer plunge saw, but it didn't come with any track. And what I thought was that if you're like me and you're looking at Marketplace the whole time, then you may find things like track saws that are available without the track, because the track can get damaged or lost or whatever else, but people are more likely to look after the saw themselves. Now, there's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube about how to create a track for a regular circular sword, but not a plunge saw. So today, what I'm hoping to do is create a track for this. Now, you can buy XL tracks, which are like 35, 40 quid, something like that. But in all honesty, I haven't got that sort of money to be throwing at things, especially this side of Christmas. So, so I'm going to try and make a track for this, because when I was cutting the MDF, I just clamped on a straight edge and I was sort of trying to hold it against that fence, and it was quite difficult to do at times, particularly because of my mobility issues. It wasn't easy to keep it on track, so some of my edges are less than square. Hopefully, if I can make a track for this cheap old Erbauer, then that also works with Makitas and Festals as well, I believe. But hopefully the principles will allow you to use this kind of format for any plunge saw that you may pick up secondhand or cheap in sales, because it doesn't come with the track. So yeah, hopefully this will help someone. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's my plan. Here are some old bits of laminate flooring. I got these for next to nothing off Marketplace, and I've recently sort of had these all taken up and some other Marketplace versions taken down, put on the floor to give me a better sort of larger surface. So I've got these going spare. Now, you can pick these up for free on Marketplace and all sorts of things. I've got no idea if this is going to work. If this doesn't work, I think I'm going to have to go down the MDF route, but we'll see. We'll see about going on here. So if we have a look at the track saw, when it comes to the size, let's just pop that up. I haven't got this plugged in, by the way. Okay, so, oh, by the way, these Ox tape measures off Amazon, cheap as chips, and they've got their little double, the little 2 thingy marking to show that they're super accurate. So yeah, just a little tip for you. If I can do a affiliate code, I will do. But this is working out to be just a hair over 16 centimeters wide, which is about sort of just under 6.5 inches. So somewhere in that kind of region. But what we've got from the side of the track, don't know why I unlocked that then. From the side of the inside of this track, that is 5 1/4 inches, which works out to be about, no, we've got to go out to here, about 13.8-ish, 13.7 centimetres, or about just under 5 1/2 inches. So that's the sort of width that we've got to look at. Now then, when it comes to these boards, we only need one of these for the moment. When it comes to these boards, they are 5 1/2 inches wide, or what we got, 10, 13, just a hair under 14 centimetres. So we haven't got much room to play with. But what I'm thinking is if I can stick a rail across here, which in theory shouldn't be really super difficult, then it's going to run in here to keep things straight, and the majority of this plate is going to sit on top of it. In fact, what we can do is, if we just pop that on there, we can see that, yeah, that should, turn this the other way around, that should work out to be just about okay, but the stabilising batten will have to be properly along the edge. So I'm hoping that that'll do the trick, but we will see. And this is part of the whole kind of beginner woodworking and doing things on the cheap. Right, now then, when it comes to wood, I'm very lucky that yet again another Facebook marketplace is this, which I got a bunch of this stuff. I think this is, we thought it might be Iroko, but it's not. It's something else that I can't remember the name of. If I can remember it, I'll try and pop it up on screen. But it's quite a light hardwood. But it's definitely in the mahogany family. It's very strong, and it looks nice. But my idea is to cut this the size that I need it, stick it on there, and then the track runs along this one, alongside this. Everyone's a winner. Uno Tracko. And because these laminate floorboards have these kind of click-in pieces, the idea of making an extension track for it might be doable. So yeah, let's crack on with that. All right then, so let's get stuck into doing this. So this is the track that we need to go down. Now, a couple of things that I've got going on here. I made one of these. I think this was my first or second ever thing that I made. And I copied the design from the JSK Kobu channel on YouTube, which is fantastic. Definitely go and check that out. But basically it's just a slide, it's a couple of bits of wood sandwiched over a ruler, and then I can tighten that up by hand, and then there we go, we're set. Super easy to make. If you want any more info on this, go and check out the JSK Kobu, or let me know in the comments and I'll show you how I made it, because it's super easy. And because I've done this just with a little Allen bolt design, it was crazy easy to make, but a little bit different to what he does. So if you want to know more, let me know. We've got the tape measure, of course. And we've also got this little scribing tool here, which it looks posh because it's very heavy, but it's because of this brass bit, it looks quite posh. It's not the sharpest thing in the world, to be fair, and it was just another cheapie off Amazon. So if I can find the link to that, I'll pop that down below as well. But it can be quite useful. I don't know if we're going to be able to see the scribe on darker wood, but we'll certainly give it a crack. Now then, when it comes to the size that we've got to deal with, we're not going to measure at the top here, because at the top this section is a little bit thicker, so we need to measure the actual track. And doing that looks to be, to me, about 18 millimeters, I think. Or if we look at it in inches, what we got there, just under 3/4. So I don't know, whatever that is in old money. But yeah, it's always best for you to measure things yourself. So I will set my I'll set my guide to the 18 millimeters. I've got a lot of crud on the end of this, which I need to get rid of. Let's go just a hair wide longer. It's easier to take wood off than it is put wood on. So then we've got to undo this. Let's move this saw out of the way. We can then push the cutting wheel up to the end and then tighten it down. I've got really sore fingers today, so yeah, hopefully that'll be the thickness we need. Now then, this is the piece of wood that I'm going to be using, and it requires very little taken off it. This does look to be pretty straight if I sight it all the way down. However, I'm hoping that because I'm going to cut down the end here, it's going to be pretty right. Now, this is part of what I do, which will annoy the hell out of a lot of woodworkers, I'm sure. But it's basically kind of, well, it's close enough. It's for a shop project at the end of the day. When I make stuff proper, that will be on the channel, including the stuff for the for sale stuff, it will be a lot finer woodworking than what I'm doing right here. So let me just put the saw down so I don't damage myself. Depending on your camera angle, this might look super dodgy. Okay, so now it's just a case of running this along. Maybe a little bit easier to see under this light, but yeah, all I've done is I've scribed along the side there. We have got a little line there that you may or may not be able to see. I'll just pop that there on the floor for a second. And if you want to make it a little bit stronger, you can always get your pencil and kind of go in the line with the end of a pencil just to make it a little bit darker if you want to be able to see what you're doing a little bit easier. Hopefully that's something that you've been able to see on camera, but I'll try and make it so if you can't. Okay, so let's wind the blade up on the saw, and we're going to need to go as high as this. If it doesn't reach it, then we'll have to do it in 2 passes. To be fair, I could rip down the wood down the middle anyway, but well, we'll give it a go. Okay, so that's just above there, so we've got a nice flush finish going on right there. So now we have to make sure that we take only the tiny bit off that's needed on here. Luckily, this saw is very, very good for that, but I think just for ease of use, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this board down to the same length as one of the laminate floor strips first, just to make it a little bit safer. Okay, so we don't need to take a massive amount off of this. I'm not going to measure it. I'm just going to throw it together like this. But I am going to go just a hair over the end of it, and that means that if I'm going just a hair over, then if I do want to use other pieces of track, I can do. And I'm just checking to make sure that I have got a lip here and it's not been cut off. So yeah, I'm going to go pretty much just taking that much off. I thought more was going to come off, but that will do the trick. I'll do that on the miter saw super quickly. So I just marked a rough line on here, checking with the miter saw that we're going to be cutting on the right side of that line, and away we go. So, as I said before, only the tiniest amount has to come off of here. So we're going to try and get the fence up against here. So we're just taking a fraction of this off at any given time. Let me just move that across. I'm going at the minute for about half the width of the blade, I think. So yeah, that'll probably be about 1 millimeter. Let's lock the fence in, get the push stick and get it cut. Alrighty then, so just making sure that we're good to go along there. I know this fence is very straight with the blade, so I'm very happy about that. And I've got my riving knife on as well. So let's go and see what we can do. I love the induction motor on this. the dust collector on first. Okay, now there's ever such a small amount more that I think we could take, but what I'm going to do is check on the saw first. Alrighty, so we're just going to double check that that's still a little bit too tight, which it is, so we can take a little bit more off. One of the awesome things about this Axminster saw is that I've got micro adjustment right here, so I can unlock it and then just take it in just a smidge that way, and we'll see if that's enough. We are so close, but you probably can't see on camera, but there is the tiniest little hump here and here on this runner, and that is like, I don't know, a fraction of a millimetre. So I've got to take a really tiny bit off now, which I'll probably do with sanding. I think one of the things that I would do today, sorry, I just coughed and sneezed at the same time. One of the things that I would do is use a hand plane if I was feeling up to it. Today is not one of those days though. So even though we are flush with the line that we scribed in, I'm going to take just a touch more off with the orbital sander, and we'll see if that makes it really kind of snug in. I think it needs just a hair more taken off, just a hair. And there we have it. It's held in nicely with the track there, and it still does move, although very, very snug. I'm assuming that once I've waxed this and it's worn in a little bit, that it'll be a little bit smoother, so we'll see how that goes. Now then, what we're going to do next is figure out how far up this needs to go in the track. So I could measure the track, measure the depth of the track, but I think what I'm going to do instead is keep things super easy. I'm going to draw a line, and as long as I cut on the on that line exactly, then we should be a decent depth for this saw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the thicker piece, which is with the little homemade gadget. So it should be pretty much like that. Tighten that up if my fingers will let me. There we go. So that should be pretty much spot on for what we need. And then once we've got that, we can set the saw. So because I'm going to be cutting, I'm going to be using rather than the waste being on the outside, I'm going to have the proper bit being on the outside. I can use the measure that I've just taken, trying not to get on the teeth of the saw too much, and then bring the fence in to where it needs to be, and that means that the waste, which is coming out on this side, should be the perfect fit. Fingers crossed. Oh, that's so close, so close. There's maybe a millimetre, maybe half a millimetre outside that. Oh, that's annoying. That's definitely going to be a sanding job. I know I just said I was going to sand this rail, but as I mentioned previously, sanding and what have you today is not really on my agenda. However, it doesn't protrude much lower than this locky bit. So I imagine that that's not a bad thing? I don't really know. But let's try and do it a little bit quicker. As I said, I didn't do the sanding. I cheated and just ran another bit through the table saw, and away we go. Oops, away we go. Hopefully. Oh, that is very snug, but it seems to be working. Just very, very snug at this back point right here. But yeah, I'm okay with that. Well, sanding isn't my favourite thing to do with my hands today. Because this is so thin, I think I should be able to take a little tiny bit off this pretty easily. All right, let's see if that's made any difference whatsoever. There we go. That's sliding through like a dream now. If anything, it's a little bit too deep, but we'll see. We'll see if this will work. If it does, brilliant. If it doesn't, then we've always got the other one to play with. So let's see about throwing this onto one of the planks. Okay, to give this a test, I'm going to use some double-sided sticky tape to stick it on there and see if that's enough to hold, because I'm just going to pop that right on the edge here and see if that is going to be okay. So let's have a little go at that, shall we? Nope. Throw that on there like that. You know, you do things sometimes and you just go, ah. Right, so that's on there. You can tell I'm not precious about my my workbench. It's there for working, not looking at. Surprise, surprise, we're going to use another cheap Amazon purchase, this Rolson straight edge, which does the trick. I wouldn't trust the bubbles, but no, it works. Pro tip: if you struggle to get the backing off tape like I do because of my fingers, actually using a blade to do it makes life a lot easier. Don't know why, but it just does. Now we want to make sure that this stays nice and straight. I'm actually lining it up with the side of the board and the straight edge. Okay, that looks pretty straight to me. Job's a good one. And that just needs some weight on it. Make sure that sticks down before we try popping the saw on there and seeing what happens. Okay, so time for the moment of truth. This is the first time, so fingers crossed we're all a go. Make sure everything's loose on the settings on the saw. Obviously we're still not plugged in yet. And then away we go. Got the anti-kickback thingamajig. Hey! Yep, can't pull it back because the anti-kickback. But that is pretty sweet. I think what I need to do is just wax all of this, but otherwise I'm pretty pleased with that. Okay, so this part of my MDF is super ropey and not straight at all, but the bottom and the top seem to be not far off. So it'll do for the purposes of the test today. If I get my square along there, straight edge going across here and across here. Give that a line. But before I cut this off, I am going to have to get rid of any waste on here. The one thing that I've just realised I can't do with this is clamp it down. Certainly not to do the full run. I could clamp on the front and the back and then do sort of the middle run. But yeah, so that's just something to be aware of for the V2. Alrighty then, so let's see how we're going to get on, shall we? Well, that seems to have given us a reasonably straight cut, which is all good. Now we're going to have to see if it cuts along this line like we want it to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try clamping just the ends and seeing if that works. Okay, with those clamps on, it does move on the board, but that shouldn't, hopefully, make a difference with regards to what we're doing. So what I'm going to do is place the saw on the track. And I'm going to take it back as far as I can with this, and we'll see how we go. Alrighty, so we have actually cut into the side of this for some reason. I don't know why, but let's have another look and see. We're coming off the line a little bit because I didn't measure it properly clearly. So let's have a go at fixing this, shall we? Okay, so because I had a jagged edge, I just needed to refine some cutting on that side, so I've managed to do that now, and that's all good and gravy. Is this going to be the most perfect thing ever? Probably not. But while I was thinking about doing this, I did have a thought that if I wanted to be able to clamp things on, maybe I could put another piece of wood, because of the joint on here, actually glue that together and include sort of a back piece that I could then easily clamp to the work surface. So I think that would probably work. But what I'm going to do now is just do another line. That'll do for the sake of jazz. Okay, I've had an idea what to do about this, and I don't know if it's genius or if it's a stupid idea, but could go either way. I've got some of this rubber matting, which I think is still going to slide, but might not slide as much. I don't know. Let's get some stuck down. We'll use some tape again. You can buy that stuff that's really sticky like all the time, and I think that's probably the way forward, but I haven't got any of that, but I have got some of this, so we'll give it a go. So I didn't purchase this stuff, this is just stuff that we had in the house. Don't tell my wife I'm doing this because she might need it for something. Okay, does that help at all with grippiness? It really does. Well, who would have known? Still can't really see what I'm doing because of the shadows, but never mind. Right, so we're overhanging the workbench. That's not moving. We can pop the saw on the track. Let's see what happens. Okay, so all things considered, I'm calling that a win because it seems, oh, focus Dean, focus. It seems to have sorted itself out lovely. That is a fairly consistent by the line cut. So the only thing that happened when I was doing that is this did move around because it came unstuck, but now I know it works, then I can see about just screwing that in. But this video has been long enough for today, so I'm sure you all know what it's going to be about, just to drill a hole and put some screws in. But let's go back up top. So there you have it. That is my track for a track saw if you don't have a track. On a budget, made of scrap. Now all of this, even though I did use power tools, you can do it by hand, you can use it with whatever tools you've got. That doesn't make any difference. Like I said, you can get wood off Facebook Marketplace, or you can get this laminate off Facebook Marketplace for free. You can, and that's because it's nice and smooth, it's got less friction. That's why I wanted to try this. The wood, you know, I imagine you could use plywood or anything else. Just make sure that you wax it up. What I might do if I make another version of this is just round over just a touch on those tops, just so it's less prone to chipping and all that sort of stuff. And it comes to the slidey mat underneath. This is just something that we had in the house and seems to do the trick. So jobs are good in there. But otherwise, is it as good as a proper one? No. But I think if you were to add a back piece with another piece of wood a lot thinner and glued it all together, then you could make a clamping area. And you know, you could do the same sort of thing for this to make a jig for your router as well, or a jigsaw, or a whole bunch of other things. So all in all, I think it was a worthwhile experiment today. I think this probably was one of the longer videos. So if you liked it, please leave it a thumbs up. And if it was useful, or if you just enjoyed it because you've got nothing else going on, let me know. Any comments down below. But yeah, I'm going to definitely screw this together and make sure it's all fine and dandy. And that is now going to be my track for my Erbauer track saw. And this has cost me absolutely nothing. Marvellous. See you next time.